Do 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 ba 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 dee bum la 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 da da da. I am a strong disbeliever in signs and portents. I am convinced that nearly all supernatural signs are the result of selective memory, that we ignore the 9,999 times our hunches are wrong and focus on the 0.01% of time that a hunch turns out to be correct. I had a hunch that a former classmate of mine from 1972 had passed. I did a quick search and found J.A.'s obituary. Fittingly, J.A. died 40 years after the release of Superfly. Now, don't jump to the conclusion that J.A. was a thug or a dealer or any sort of bad guy. I know he wasn't, at least not when I saw him last way back in 1979 when we graduated high school together. What he was born into poverty and surrounded by neighbors who were angry, hungry, and tired of getting the short end of the stick. Neighbors who rightly felt they deserved better and who sometimes lashed out at those who didn't go to bed hungry and who had far easier beginnings and decidedly easier upward paths. My early years were lily white. I spent the first 10 years of my life on Birchwood Drive in Bloomington, Illinois. Bloomington was overwhelmingly white, and Birchwood housed nothing but white folks. When I started kindergarten at Bloomington's Oakland Elementary in 1966, the nearly all-white school had 0 African Americans, a demographic that changed in 1970 when a pair of black siblings began attending Oakland. The boy was picked on mercilessly by my white peers and frequently had to resort to fistfights to protect himself, while his sister was merely harassed daily by the fine, white, middle-class children who attended Oakland in 1970-71. I don't know what happened to those children because we moved 750 miles east to a D.C. suburb when my dad left his job at ISU and started teaching at the University of Maryland. The neighborhood that surrounded our rental house on Grenoble Drive was significantly different than our house on Birchwood. Older, grittier, more diverse, but still overwhelmingly white, which was also true of Brookhaven Elementary, where I went to 5th grade. The move was hard and the rental was unpleasant, but my folks found Design 4, a new housing development just off of New Hampshire Avenue near Cloverly, where they contracted to have a home built. Our new house on Butterchurn Lane wasn't completed before the school year began, so for the remainder of 1972, my father ferried my 3 older siblings and me to the schools we'd be attending for the remainder of our K-12 educations. My school was Stonegate Elementary, while my older siblings attended Argyle Junior High and Sherwood High. The day my parents were supposed to close on our new house, I walked a half mile from Stonegate to our house and looked in through the living room window where I saw that the carpet had been pulled up and stolen. Concerned that we'd be responsible for paying for the carpet, I rushed across the street to the Ryans' house, explained what I'd seen, and asked if I could borrow their phone. Mrs. R allowed me to phone home, and my mother said not to worry about it. When I hung up the phone, Mrs. Ryan shook her head and said, "It was probably that Holly Grove bunch." One day towards the end of 6th grade, I was on all fours in order to get something out of my cubbyhole, and J.A. walks around the corner and sits down on me. Next, the 2 girls walk around the corner and start laughing how, "Hey, everybody, J.A.'s back here trying to have desperate sex with Keith Kettle," something I understood to be cruel but didn't really understand at the time. Holly Grove kids went to Farquhar Junior High while I went to Argyle, but J.A. went to Sherwood High as I did. J.A.'s obituary said he'd moved to NYC. I sincerely hope he had a good life full of love and happiness. He was a good guy.